Hello friends and potential friends. Well, it's another windy day here in southern Idaho, and I'm going to take a chance on trying to use this remote mic again, see if it'll work for me. When I first got here, I came out and did a video in this raised bed garden, mainly because I spent a lot of time last year building this thing, and I wanted to see what Mom had done with it. Well, after that, I kind of realized that I totally neglected a lot of the stuff that's growing around here. Besides the weeds, I guess I have spent time on the weeds, but we have some plans for this garden. Seems that Mom's been having a little bit of trouble getting out here. It's quite a ways from the house. So last night, I ordered 2 more raised beds, and when they come in, I'm going to put them together, and we're going to basically, over the next 2 or 3 years, I intend to move this garden up right close to the house where Mom can get to it easier. And when I do that, I'm planning on tilling up this whole area and turning it into a corn patch. Main reason for that is I found that, well, first off, you know, there's an irrigation ditch right over there under all those weeds, and that has water running in it about 4 or 5 days a week, and we don't have to do anything to make that happen. Well, that water seeps under the dirt and comes out underneath the garden. I put a lot of fill dirt in here last year, and still I find wet spots out here well out beyond the raised bed. So that water is seeping under the ground here, and if I plant corn in here, then that corn just needs to send its roots down about a foot or so, and it'll find all the water it wants. And that sounds like a pretty good plan to me. That way Mom could come out here early in the spring and plant her corn, and then she doesn't have to come out here again until it's time to harvest. So that's kind of our working goal going forward. You can see over here where the darker areas is all the water that's seeping out of that irrigation ditch. It just comes right through the dirt here and heads on out into the rest of this area. But speaking of the rest of this area, you may notice that these tomatoes have grown an awful lot since I did that first video. In fact, Mom just picked one this morning, and there's a couple more down here that are starting to ripen, so starting to get to enjoy some garden candy. Still don't know what all of these are. I know there's ponderosas, there's the Everglades, that's the ones that have been ripening. We got a prac cherry over here in the corner. We did find some labels that indicate we might have 1 or 2 homestead tomatoes planted in here, and eventually we'll find out what's what. Over in this bed, we went to the nursery last week. I may have mentioned we got a couple of peppers. Got that banana pepper there, and this one is a red Marconi. We also got basil, see there, and a little bit of sage. And those are all coming along nice. And I see something over here that looks pretty, so I can't resist that. That's our eggplant. It's got a second blossom on it, so we'll see if that decides to produce anything for us. Talking about producing, this is at least 2 squash plants, and Mom looked at her garden log and found that she had planted acorn squash seeds, yellow squash, and also butternut squash seeds. So we're not totally convinced what these are. I guess we're going to find out pretty soon, because some of these things are really producing. That guy there is about 3 inches long, and I can't decide what kind of squash it is yet. But as I look down in here, I find little round squashes all over the place. Look at that, there's 4 or 5 of them right down in there, and it's still trying to make more. If these plants hang on to even half of the fruit they've already tried to form, we're going to be loaded in squash. And that's a good thing. Over in this bed, this is where we harvest the garlic. Mom planted zucchini seeds on this side. She has this one pole bean over here for the trellis. And then on this side, planted pumpkin pie seeds. She had a pumpkin last year that was nice and sweet, and she made sure she saved seeds from it. So they're planted all along this side. And I believe she has some more seeds that she wants to plant down the middle of this. So that's going to fill that bed out. We still haven't decided whether that's a garlic or a leek. I suspect it's an elephant garlic, but now it's got a scape on it, dark twist, like a hardneck. I didn't know that elephant garlics produced a scape. So I'm just totally confused, and we're just letting it grow, see what it turns into. Now over here, this is our corn patch. And I'm pleased to announce that as of this morning, we've got corn popping up. See if I can zoom in on that. There's one right there, about an inch tall. And there's another one over there, and another one 6 inches past it. And there's more here in the next row. I see a couple of them popping up. And in the next row, I see a few of them popping up. One's on the other side over there, coming up pretty good. And there's more out here in the center. And they're just coming up all over the place, and they were not here yesterday. So, it looks like we're going to have some sweet corn growing pretty soon. We're a little bit behind. I don't think we're going to make it to that knee-high by the 4th of July because, well, tomorrow is the 4th of July. But we could very well be eating sweet corn in 2 or 3 months. I hope I'm still here to get some of it. But that is the raised bed garden, and now I want to take you around and show you some of the other stuff that's growing around here. Well, sticking with the more traditional gardening, this is one of Mom's green stalks, and she's got basil and lettuce, strawberries, and that looks like a radish, and more lettuce, and even more lettuce up here, and more strawberries. Strawberries are producing runners, so when we can, we're tucking them into empty pockets. And surprisingly, even though it's July now, that lettuce not got bitter yet, and it hasn't bolted. So I've been seriously considering filling up the other green stalk and planting more lettuce in it. And what I'm really curious about, this guy right here, Mom doesn't know what it is, but when I look at that thing, the leaves on it, if you ignore the bug, look an awful lot like small mulberry leaves. There's a possibility that could be a little mulberry bush growing here. If it is, bird squirrels planted it, but my plan is to dig that out of there and put it into another container so I can let it grow and see what it turns into. But that's her green stalk, one of two. The other one isn't set up yet right now, but it will be before too long. Might as well get it going even if we just plant short season crops in it, radishes and that sort of thing. That's a little bit more that's growing around here. And I think I showed you this plum tree once, twice, blowing around nicely. This thing, last year it had a few plums on it, and this year it's loaded. They're little tiny things, but I remember tasting them last year, and they sure were good. You just have to work at it, get filled up, that's all. This year it looks like we'll have plenty of opportunities to get filled up. So that's the tiny one. That's only about 10 feet tall, but we have others. And I also pointed out this area in one of the videos. There's the cuttings that I took off plum trees and the mulberry. Plum cuttings seem to be doing pretty good. Haven't seen any roots on them yet. The leaves are staying well formed. The mulberries, all the leaves dried out. And I'm not sure what that means, but I'm going to be taking more cuttings and I'm going to keep at it, trying every technique I think of to get mulberry cuttings growing. From the look of things, I might have to take a couple of grape cuttings back with me too. And we need to find a place to plant a bunch of these. Mom's grape cuttings are doing well. And then there's that loofah down there. She mentioned this morning she wants to find a place to plant that. And it looks like it wants to be planted too. But this is where she does all of her cuttings. And these are a lot of the seeds that she planted inside, brought outside now. And she's got various things coming up here. There's some more of those pumpkins that are sprouting. So got a lot growing here. Oh, and by the way, catnip or catmint grows wild around here. I picked a little bit of that, put it in the van for Mamba. He enjoys it. Another thing we've got growing out here is gooseberries. That right there, believe it or not, is a gooseberry bush. About 20, 25 feet tall. I didn't even realize what it was when I came here because I've never seen gooseberries. But it does have a few berries on it. Not very many, and they're not really very because I don't like climbing ladders anymore. It looks like in another few weeks that thing is going to be loaded. Right here next to the ditch where we get our irrigation water. Today is Wednesday, our last day of irrigation. So pulling the water out of there to try to keep the lawn green. And it seems to be working. Yeah, that's a gooseberry bush. And then she's got all these roses growing out here that once in a while she'll come out and pick some rose hips. See those ones? This one I forget, I think she called this a cotton candy bush. It's not an edible, but when it starts flowering, it looks beautiful. There's the main rose bushes out there. They're growing nicely, adding a lot of beauty to this place. But that's not everything. Showed you the small plum tree. Well, this is the big plum tree, and I see a ripe plum up there. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. I'm still not real good with this zoom. There it is. That's the first ripe one I've seen. Almost ripe anyway. And that's about 10 feet off the ground, so I hope the birds enjoy that, because I'm not going to climb up there to get it. They are starting to ripen. And then we have the smaller bush out here. This is the one where I'm doing my air layering. It also has a few plums on it, so I don't see any ripe ones. I don't really expect to see any ripe ones yet, but there's my air layering on the plums. Hopefully that will produce at least one plant that I can grow. I see this one on the right, the leaves still staying pretty good. The one on the left, the leaves are looking a little bit peaked, so maybe I'll get one out of the two to work out. Kinda hope so. And here's another wild rose bush. Could get rose hips off of that one too. And one of them cockleburs. Boy, I strongly dislike those things. I'll have to tell you about them one of these days. And now we are under the mulberry bush. Yeah, 40-foot tall mulberry bush. We got some tarps laid out over here. This is on the east side of the tree. There is a good sized branch that's producing berries, but it's not producing a lot of them. And they're also sheltered from the wind quite a bit. I'm sure you can see the berries up in there, but they tend not to fall off so easy. There's probably a couple of them on the tarp right there. And I probably should get out here and pick them up for too long. But over here on the other side, which I have to wade through some of the irrigation water to get to, there's another wild rose, and incidentally there's another wild rose there, about 10 feet tall, and there's another wild rose down there a ways. So we do have a lot of rose bushes growing around here. Mom's already got a collection of rose hip. I see there are a lot of them hanging on this one too, in case she needs any more. But back to mulberries. This is the side where we're getting most of our berries, and they're going way up there now. There's a couple of good sized branches here that are producing, and we've been catching them on this tarp, plus I go around and pick up the ones that wind up in the grass, and I don't know how many we've got in the freezer right now, but we need to start canning because that freezer is plumb full. This is where I'm doing the air layering on the mulberry. That one down there, the leaves past the process don't look all that great, and the berries that were on there are pretty much dried up. Been adding water to it regularly. This one up here, once again, the leaves are looking good beyond the air layering, which tends to tell me that so far at least that branch is staying alive, and hopefully it is producing some roots inside there. One way or another, I am going to get some plants out of this guy. And then I guess perhaps finally showed you the gooseberry tree up front of the house. Well, turns out that we got a gooseberry back here in the little forest too. And I have picked a bunch of berries off of this for Mom to process. This was, well, this spot where I'm standing is where I parked the van last year. I can't pull it in here yet this year because of the mulberries still falling. And I probably won't pull it in here because when we're doing the irrigation, we get a lot of water back here. And it comes down into here. Previous tenant planted a couple of fruit trees. There's a pear and a peach, I believe, and those, neither one of them look like they're surviving, but this gooseberry sure is producing. And that just reminded me, this is not the last thing growing around here. So let's take another little walk. Now this may be finally. This is a peach tree, and strictly speaking, it's not on Mom's property. It's in the front yard of the property next door. Nobody lives here, but the folks that own the place come by to tend the cattle from time to time. This is where the two calves were born. And last year, nobody was picking these peaches, so Mom picked a bunch of them and canned them. And now it looks like this year is going to be loaded again. There are a lot of peaches on this tree. So plan for this year is Mom wants to come out here and pick them again if the neighbors don't pick them. And then she's going to go ahead and can them and give a few jars of peaches to the neighbors. Got to be on pretty good terms with them. But if they're not going to pick peaches, someone needs to. And Mom's willing to do it. I just need to clear more of the weeds out of here so she can get in here better without falling in one of these irrigation ditches. But that's on the list, and they are pretty good peaches too, from what I understand. I haven't tried any yet. I might get into one of the jars put up last year. And now, I think that's pretty much a tour of the place and everything we got growing around here. So we're constantly planting more seeds and trying to get even more going. But that's where we're at right now. Well, except for the neighbors. And I'll see you next time.